welcome to our webinar today. We appreciate you giving us a few minutes of your time. A little bit of an agenda. First, I'll give you a quick company overview. Then after that, we'll hand it over to Jamie so he can walk through a few slides that give you a sense of how our solution works. And then we'll go live right into the demo. A little bit about it. For those who don't know, we've been in a Sage environment for over 25 years, developing Tier 1 capability and enhanced functionality for over 3,000 Sage customers globally with tightly integrated solutions. Our focus is comprehensive workflow and procure-to-pay solutions, including AP automation with procurement. We're proud to have been a Sage Select Tech partner, developing products that only integrate in Sage solutions. Our data centers are in Australia, Canada, South Africa, and New Zealand. We're also very pleased to say that we've received a number of awards from Sage for our development skills, including last year in Sage Australia for the Pacific 2024 award. Jamie, over to you.
All right. Yeah, thanks, Bill, and hi to everyone. And thanks for your time, as Bill said. So what we've got here is this infographic that really, we're trying to capture our whole solution sort of on one slide at a high level so that partners and customers can really understand how our solution works. So you can see over on the right-hand side in the hexagon is Sage Intacct. Then on the left-hand side are the different components of our solutions for Intacct. So up the top, we've got our data capture and ingestion, and also this tower in the middle is our workflow engine. So this is where we can do the configuration of the workflows, the approval processes, and we've got the authority levels. So you can see down the bottom there, we've got our configuration, authority levels, workflows, and beside that, we've got two of the key Intacct functions, which is dimensions and entities. So our solutions support those important parts of Intacct. Yeah, so we can set up our workflows within the workflow engine, and so then up the top here, when an invoice can come in by way of a PDF through email, that comes in through our solution, it does the data extraction, and then goes through an approval process where managers can do their approvals using our browser app. And when the invoice has gone through that approval process, then it will get pushed across into Intacct. So that's the AP automation side of things. And so that's working with PDFs, which is what we're all been familiar with for many years in terms of emails coming in with the invoices attached as PDFs. Now a new area that's starting to gain quite a bit of traction is e-invoicing, and so you can see that up in the top left there. So this is really the new sort of generation of technology, and we've been doing a lot of work around this, supporting this e-invoicing. So e-invoicing it's been adopted in Europe and Australia and New Zealand and Malaysia and Singapore and Japan. So using something called the PEPOL format. So that's sort of like quite a global format. So just like a PDF can come into our AP automation system, so can an e-invoice come in. So that's all very well, but we're also doing a lot of work with the Sage Intacct team up in North America to provide sort of support for e-invoicing for Intacct as a native offering. So if it comes into our AP automation system, the e-invoice comes in here, goes on the blue line into our workflow engine, and just goes from there very much the same as a PDF through the approval process. But what we've developed for the Intacct team is the ability for the invoice to come in to our connected service and then just get pushed straight through into Intacct. And so, that obviously means if your client's okay with the Intacct approval processes, then they don't need our AP automation. So that's something we've been working on during this year with the Intacct team, and so that's all now available. And then the next part that we've been working on with the Intacct team is to actually support their AI engine. So this is something that we're just working on at the moment. What that'll mean, the invoice will come in to our connected service and we'll be able to detect if the customer's got Sage AI turned on, and if they have, it'll go through this channel to sort of to apply the learning and push that into Intacct. Yeah, so this whole e-invoicing, getting quite a bit of traction in different regions around the world. I think North America, I haven't really heard of it getting much traction there. I think it's just starting up. But so if anyone sort of brings up this topic, or if any RFPs mention e-invoicing, then feel free to get in touch with us. All right, so okay, so that's sort of AP automation. So then the other area that we've been doing quite a bit of enhancements on is the procurement side. As you'd be well aware, some clients are really looking for AP automation. Procurement's not sort of a focus area for them, but for others, procurement is very important. So this is where we've been focusing our efforts over the last 6 months. A user can do a requisition through our application, and it can go through an approval process. So the requisition goes through the approval process, the managers do their approvals, they get notified as the requisitions come to them for approving. So there's all those email alerts. And once the requisition is fully approved, then our solution creates the purchase order within Intacct. So at that point, the PO is within Intacct, so it can be reported on using the spend management part of Intacct. Right, then we've also got a receiving facility. What we're just doing is adding more functionality. So, Intacct does provide some quite good functionality in some of these areas, but it's just not what some clients are looking for. So that's where we're sort of adding more horsepower on top of what Intacct's got. All right, and then when an invoice comes in, when it's related to a PO, then we've got the three-way matching. So you can see that here, so that's important as well, important part of our solution. So an invoice comes in with a PO number on it, the system will look up to find a receipt and will match the lines on the invoice to the lines on the receipt. Right, and then one other area is PunchOut. So this will give you a quick demo of this during the session as well. So this is where from the purchasing system, the user can click on a button, hop over to the vendor, do their shopping, and then that returns those items back to their requisition within PW Intacct. All right, so I think that's really all of the key points I wanted to cover. So on this infographic, just some of the key capabilities. Just go through this pretty quickly. The delegations, so you set up your delegated authorities in a sort of central place. So for all of your different workflows, so that's a nice, from a maintenance point of view. Also, when users go away on a holiday, they can put in they're going away on this date, coming back on this other date. And the system will just take care of the redirection while they're away. The invoice, the purchase orders and the invoices are stored within Intacct. And so that's, we think very important. We're trying to sort of, put this important information inside Intacct rather than just holding it out in our system. Our approval groups, now delegated authorities, are sort of quite flexible. And in terms of the workflows, so we've got multiple steps, so you can have sort of up to 10,000 steps. You can sort of direct where a workflow goes, so it can go from step 10 to step 40 and back to step 30 and that sort of thing. So Intacct doesn't have that. It's sort of just you can flow through, but that's as far as the Intacct solution offers. All right, and then we've got PunchOut and then three-way matching as well. And I think the last one, automated extraction of PO invoices, I believe Intacct have now got that. So that one's probably, I guess we do it and Intacct do it, which sort of leads us on to the next slide. So, if you're wondering sort of what are the differentiators between our offerings and what Intacct offers, I've already touched on it a couple of times. Intacct's got some reasonable functionality there, but we just sort of provide more for sort of larger or more complex clients. Then that's where our solutions come in. So this infographic really tries to just highlight one of the key differences. All right, so that's
Jamie, just back on that for a second.
oh
Sorry,
yes,
I
sorry.
wanted to. That's all right. I just wanted to point out, one thing I noted when we were in Atlanta that a lot of people did say for most systems, they're not as configurable for the workflows, and that's a real win for us. And the ones that are more configurable have weaknesses where they don't get the PO into Sage Intacct, and then the customer can't report or isn't aware of their commitment. So where they're really good, where our competitors even are good in one area, they're weak in another. And I believe we've got the highly configurable workflows, plus we put both the invoices directly inside of Intacct, and we put the POs directly inside of Intacct. So all the reporting can be proper inside of Intacct. Nothing's missing. And I think those variables were a critical difference between us and Intacct itself and our competitors. Just thought I'd point that out.
Right, no, very good. Thanks, Bill. That's good. Right, so now let's have a look at the software. We shall come to our login page. So here we've got the login page of PW Intacct. So I'll just log in as myself first of all and just show some of the, configuration. And so these users, when a user logs in, they're using their same credentials as Intacct. So, and in fact, let's just come and look at it. So here you can see the different menus. So we've got the approval console. Well, let's start off with transactions. So we'll work through some of these shortly. So doing a requisition, converting it to a PO, doing a receipt. So these are the transactions. Here are the two approval consoles for purchase requisitions and invoices. Then we've got 4 different inquiry screens. We'll come to those. Then we've got our reallocations and substitutions. So substitutions when a user's going away on a holiday from this date to that date, they can have it rerouted to another user. That's a substitution. A reallocation is when someone's on sick leave, so a requisition or an invoice is already sitting with that person, and so you want someone to reallocate it to another user. And then we've got our admin menu. So this is where the configuration work is done. So if we just come and look at users, first of all, you'll see the users listed here. So these need to be set up with an Intacct. So we're not using our own user tables. We're relying on the Intacct user tables. We'll come back to that in a minute. Oh, no, actually, yeah, so let's just look at, if we look at, let's say the division manager. So here, we've got this person here. So we store some extra information. So we've got their, what their authority level is. This is the key one. So this user is authority level 40. And so this is, the approach we've developed, or the concepts we've developed over 20 years in terms of workflows and delegated authorities. So each user has an authority level. And then down here, you can say which workflows that user can access as well. Right, so that's the users. And then if we come and look at the authority levels, so here they are here. So we've got board of directors is 10, then CEO is 20, C-levels are 30, senior managers is 40. So the division manager was a senior manager. So let's click on that and have a look at what the information is in here. So you can see that we've got some fields here that can control what they can do on the requisition screen. But down here are the delegated authorities. So what we're saying, what this is saying, for authority level 40, for the AP invoice workflow, this person can approve up to $100. And if we looked at authority level 30, that'd be the C-level executives, they'd have a higher value. So this is storing the delegated authorities at an authority level, and for all the different workflows as well. So that's an AP invoice. Here's a PO invoice one. So here we've got a dollar value, but we've also got the variances as well. So we've got a variance as a dollar value and a variance as a percentage. So this is working out the variances at a line level. So this is for the three-way matching. And then down the bottom is our purchase requisition. So this is this is the amount this person or this authority level can approve when it's a purchase requisition. Yeah, so this is their delegated authority. All right, so that's the authority levels. And so then let's look at the workflows, because this is really the key part of the system. So you can see here our different workflows that we've got set up. So we've got the first two are AP invoice workflows. So you can have multiple workflows. Yeah, so you can have hundreds of workflows if you want to for different types of expenditure. And then below that, we've got two PO invoice workflows. And then down below that is our purchasing workflow. So this is our requisition workflow. So if we click on that and open it up, so you'll see here, we now have the different steps that are within this workflow. So when someone does a requisition for this workflow, it'll go to step 10, which says go to the division manager. Then if they approve it, it goes to step 20, which is that next step. Then so that's saying check a specific value. So here we've got the value set up of $1,000. So if it's below $1,000, then that doesn't need any more approvals. But if it does need if it's over $1,000, it'll need a second approval by the controller. And so, yeah, like I was saying before, you can sort of tell it on each step, you know, what it should go to. So, you know, for certain cases, it can skip over steps and things like that. If we just click on add new record, and I'll just click on this drop down here, and this shows us the different step types. So these are the different ways that or different sort of step types that you can use to control how the transaction flows. So we won't go into all of them too much, but so check below current action is ALV. So ALV is authority level value, which means delegated authority. So the system can automatically check. If it's above someone's limit, then it just moves it up. You know, once this person approves it, then you can have it routed to their manager. So it can just go in a loop, keeping on going up as many levels as you want. The other key ones, you've got project manager, and there's also authorization by groups. So we can have a requisition can go to a group of people. And so you can configure, the group can have 3 people or 5, as many as you want. And then you say how many out of that group constitutes an approval. So if it's 5 people, you might say 2 out of 5, or you might say 1 out of 5. Or 5 out of 5. But then if any one person declines it, then that's treated as a decline. All right, so yeah, there's some other configuration fields here in terms of notifications of emails, but I won't go through those at this stage. All right, so then the next part is cost center. So this is a concept that is within our solution. So this is different to the departments within Intacct. So we support those departments, but this cost center is another concept or another entity, so which can be quite powerful, our customers have found. All right, so that's the configuration. So now let's go and put in, I think that's all the key configuration. So let's come and put in a transaction, a requisition. So this user's logging in and will come in and do a requisition. So to purchase requisitions, they choose the vendor and the entity. And then here they choose the workflow. So this just shows which workflows that this user is allowed to have access to. Then they choose the cost center. So this was the concept I was just talking about before. So this is something that's just within our solution, not related to Intacct. And so then we come and add a line. Office supplies, we can put project code on there. So if the customer's using Intake projects. Then we choose our tax for an Australia. This is set up for an Australian entity. So that's our line, and then we can come and attach any quotes from suppliers. So we click on the Documents tab, and then we can pick up our quotes. So if we're now happy with that, we now submit it into the approval process. You can see it's got requisition number 600-007. So what this people can do, they can always come and look at their own requisitions. And so there's number 7 there, and they can come and look at the event log. And so this tells them who, what stage their requisition is at through the approval process and who it's sitting with for an approval. So we can see it's with the division manager. So the division manager will have got an email. Well, if you've got the emails configured, then the system will send out an email to that person. All right, so we'll now log in as the division manager. And so this requisition, this is within our solution, within PW Intacct. It is not in Intacct at this point. Just wanting to make that clear. So now we've got the 2 approval consoles. For managers, they can, if they were approving invoices, they would come in there. But if to approve requisitions, they come into the purchasing approvals. And so here they can see requisition number 7, and they can see the dollar value there. They can click on that hyperlink to open it up. They can click on workflow documents, and they will then show it, the documents. You can have multiple documents attached. So if they're happy with that, they change it to, oh, right, sorry, it's this one here. Oh, purchasing approval, there we go, number 7. So if they're happy, so they've got options here, they can either approve or decline. So if they decline a requisition, then an email will get sent back to the requisitioner to say why it was declined. And they can put in a comment in here as well. So that'll get emailed back to the requisitioner to say why the requisition was declined. So that's this comment field here. So this is a 60-character field. Right, so in this case, we'll approve it, and it'll, we click postmark documents. That now moves it along to the next step in the process. So we can always come and look at requisition inquiry. Sorry, I should slow down a little bit. So if we come into inquiries, requisition management inquiry, this lets users look at all the requisitions that are in cost centers that they've got access to. So it's not across the whole system, but just within their cost center. There's number 7, so we can see the next actioner is the controller. I'll now log in as that person to do the second approval. Oh, and one other thing I should mention, our system supports the Intacct single sign-on as well. So we do have some customers where the users are sort of working within Intacct, and then they just want to click on a menu option within Intacct and bring them over into our system. So that's all supported as well. Right, so now we're doing the second approval. So we come in again, so we're now the controller. So we see requisition number 7. They can open it up, but let's have a look at what's happened. So we can see it was submitted by this person, went to the division managers, and they approved it. And then it's checked below $1,000, so it was over $1,000 that's gone to this manager. So they can come and approve that. We won't put in a comment. So now that requisition has been fully approved, so the next step in the process is to convert that requisition into a PO. Oh, and also, so sorry, when that manager did that second approval, we would then set up a notification, so it notifies the requisitioner that your requisition is now fully approved. So they'd get a notification of that. And so the next step is to convert that requisition to a purchase order. So this is a process that within Intacct is a sort of a manual process, and which is what we're supporting currently. It's pretty high on our roadmap to have this automated. So once the requisition is fully approved, it'll create the purchase order automatically and email the PO to the requisitioner. So that's something we'll have done, I'd say, by the end of this year. Okay, so I came into convert requisition to PO. So what this is now showing is all of the requisitions that are fully approved that have not had a PO created. And so you can see our one number 7 at the bottom there. So what we do is click on the convert button. And so this is now taking the information from the requisition and creating a purchase order within Intacct. And it's also, well then once that's done, so you can see it's PO number 116, after it's created that PO, it then emails that PO to the requisitioner. And I'll just show that to you in a minute as well. So now that one's disappeared off the list. So now if we come over to Intacct and have a look at our purchase orders. So you can see number 116, Office Max Australia, with today's date. And if we have a look at the PO, you can see it's brought all of the information through. So in terms of the vendor, and, excuse me, and all the line information. And also the supporting documents from the requisitioner brought through to the PO as well. All right, so that's converting the requisition to the purchase order. And so that's the purchase order is within Intacct, so now it can be viewed as a commitment within Intacct, so that's very important. In terms of the email that gets sent out, that's nothing too exciting, but just to show it to you. So here's the email. This is one we did yesterday. So you can configure what variables were in the email. And if we open up and look at the PDF, so you can see, now this is actually quite configurable as well, or, you know, we can pull out a lot more fields on this purchase order as compared to the Intacct purchase order form. Okay, so that was so now we've got a purchase order that was emailed to the requisitioner. They can then forward it on to the vendor if they need to, or they can just tell the vendor the PO number. So then the next step in the process is the receiving. And so this is, again, the receiving can be done within Intacct, and that's fine. But some clients want some extra functionality, so that's what we've provided here. So now we come into the receipts option, and it shows us all of the open purchase orders that are within cost centers that this user has got access to. So again, not showing them everything, just restricting them to their cost center. So here's number 116.
Just a thought on the receipt. Sorry, just wanted to interject there. I find with a lot of companies, they don't want their people in remote locations necessarily going in their ERP. So to be able to limit it to just getting them into a quick browser view like this, where they can do their receipts and make sure they're happening, is better for them than actually getting them directly inside of Sage Intacct. Just something I wanted to point out there.
Cool. Yeah, thank you. All right, so we can see here now our PO number 116. So we'll open that up, and so now what that provides us is the information from the purchase order. So what we can do is we can edit that, so we can do partial receipts and, or, you know, sort of full receipts. And so let's just do receive all. We can also attach documents, so any sort of receiving documents as well. Right, so if we post that now, then, oh, that's a little pop-up message as well. So that's for some clients, the users, they just want to make sure that the people doing the receipt is, doing it correctly. So that, that's where we're just adding. And I guess we've also got some functionality around the period as well. So it can sort of push receipts into the previous period up until set date, and then it can force receipts into the next period as well. So it really just helps from a good accounting perspective. All right, so you can see receipt number 29 is there. Okay, so then now if we just go back, so that was the receiving. So now then that's sort of really ready to now move over to the invoice processing side of it. So let's just come in. So now we've sort of switched, I guess, from our point of view across to AP automation, which is where a lot of clients just want AP automation on its own without procurement. So let's just come in. Oh no, I did touch on it already. If I come and look at the workflows, so what we've looked at there was a requisition workflow. Now, if we, like I said before, we've got 2 different AP invoice workflows and 2 different PO invoice workflows. If I come and look at this PAPO workflow, which is called POINV, you can see just what that approval process is. But the key thing is, which we don't have set up in here, but is this these variances. So this is where the system can check the variances. So I know Intacct has got some variance checking. I think it might be just percentage or just dollars. I think it's one or the other, whereas we can support both. So you can check percentage and value, but also you can have it routing to different people depending on what the variance is. So because these are part of the workflow, you can say if the variance is sort of $10, then it needs to go to this person to be approved. But if the variance is $1,000, then it needs another approval. So that's the sort of extra functionality that we are providing there. All right, so then, when the invoice comes in, now because I guess we're covering quite a lot of ground in this session, so sort of not really wanting to just focus purely on the AP automation. So what we've got here, so this is the DPS part of the system, which is where the AP people operate when they're doing their processing of invoices. And so what this first dashboard that they see when they come in shows them the different entities. So, within this Intacct instance, we've got a US entity, we've got top level, US entity, Australia, Canada, South Africa, etc. And then they can see when invoices come in, they come into the processing queue, they sit there for a few minutes, then they flow to one of 2 places. The majority will flow straight across to this pending column, which means this is where the AP staff need to do some work on them to just review them and push them along. If for a new vendor, the invoices will go into this column here, which is the training column. And so that's where they just open up the screen, and that will, I'm not sure if I've got any of these set up or not, but so this is where they do the training. So you can see, so the system, so it's got a lot of machine learning and AI capabilities, had that for a number of years, but this is sort of a very easy way, the users can just, if the system hasn't quite got it right, the user can just tweak it so that the system learns that. So if I just go back, so I've got an example invoice set up here under pending. So if we click here, this shows us these are the 10 invoices that AP need to process. We've got one at the bottom here, which is the one that we've set up, which is for Office Max Australia. So now you can see that it's, as it's come in, actually if I just open it up, it would be a lot more useful. So you can see here's the invoice that was emailed in from Office Max, and here's the purchase order number, and here are the line details. So what the system does when this invoice comes in, it extracts the data out and it sees there's a purchase order number. So it will then look up to find a receipt within Intacct. And if it finds only one receipt, it will assume that is the correct receipt. And so that's all done for the user. If it couldn't find the receipt, then the user can just use this finder to go and choose a receipt. Right, so that's really, this is sort of this what we call the first screen. So this is just showing what it's captured out of the PDF. And then what we do, the next part of is match to receipt. So what this is doing is matching the invoice lines to the receipt lines. And so you can see it's done that here. So the receipt had one line of $1,200 and the invoice has got one line of $1,200. So it's quite a, I guess, what would you say, a sunny day scenario where these things line up. But with this matching, you know, we handle all the different scenarios. So the invoice has less lines than the receipt, or the invoice has more lines than the receipt. So yeah, there's all those permutations. And it also works out the variances as well. So you can see down here, we've got this variance line. So we do this to get the accounting, like the GRNI accounting working a little bit better than what Intacct does. All right, so that's now, so the AP person is now happy that everything's all good, and you can see there is no variance as well. So in this case, it matches exactly. But if we had a bit of a variance, then the system would calculate that there, the dollar value and the percentage, and that is then what's used within the workflow to determine who to route it to. All right, so the next step from there would be AP would then click on the submit button, and that would push it into the approval process. Because this one has got no variance, a lot of clients say if the invoice matches to a receipt and we've had all these approvals previously, then no approvals are required. All right, now we've got a little bit of a hiccup just with some of the updates we've been putting on to our demo system. So the submitting's actually not quite working. So that's just one little thing that will get sorted out within the next few days. So, but really, yeah, the idea is to just go straight through, because there's no variance, the system will then push it straight into Intacct as a supplier invoice along with this PDF. All right, so that's, but let's say there was a variance, then that would get routed to that manager for an approval, and they would then come over here and see that within their approval screen, invoice approvals. I might have just timed out there. Yes, you can see, yeah, so the approvals we've got here, they're all AP invoices, but if there's a PO invoice, would just show up in the same way, but a different value in this column. All right, so that's really that part of it. So now the next thing I was wanting to show was the PunchOut side of things. So we'll log in as the requisitioner. And so you can see there's another menu option here. So instead of doing a purchase requisition, we do a PunchOut requisition. And so we choose our vendors. So one of the main ones that's used is Amazon. And so again, we'll choose our entity. And so what we do is click on the PunchOut button. So this takes us across into it is logging us into the Amazon business system. And so now we can come and do our shopping. I'm not much of an expert on shopping on web stores. So let's say we want to buy some books. Let's just buy some of these. Add to cart. Let's say go back to school. If we want to buy some batteries.
You might be buying paper and printers and computers from there, but you never know. They could be reading a book.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right, so we've got 2 items in our cart. So now we proceed to checkout and then place your order. And so now what this is doing is returning that order back to our PW Intacct system. So it just gives us a message there. And so now we have another button pops up here, load PunchOut items. So what that's now done is brought those 2 items through onto our requisition, and it's brought through to the descriptions. We've got it configured to just set a single item code. And that's what we find customers for stationery, you know, they're not looking to track it through an inventory system. So they're just wanting to charge it to a GL code or a non-stock item. And so then other than that, it's the same process. So we put our workflow into our cost center, and then we can then add, then we also just need to put on the project code and choose the taxes. And so all of these taxes are all just based on what's configured within Intacct. So I probably should have, just highlighted that actually. Yeah, so yeah, the taxes are based off Intacct, the dimensions are as well, and these relationships, and yeah, so sorry, all the entities as well, I should have touched on that as well. So all the entity configuration within Intacct's all respected. So, you know, if a user only has access to certain entities within Intacct, then our solution respects all that. And the dimensions you can see down here as well from Intacct. So yeah, I should have mentioned that earlier on. Right, so now this requisition is ready. So we now submit it. You can see requisition number 8. So now that's traveling through the approval process, just like a normal requisition. Yeah, so that's the PunchOut side of the solution. All right, so that's now, I think, if we come back to our PowerPoint. So we've got a smartphone app called Pacifictech Go, which works with Sage 300, but it's not working or set up with Intacct yet. We've had some feedback from business partners and customers that they think that'd be quite a useful addition to the solution. So that's something on our roadmap to get that development carried out. So yes, for people to do approvals. What we find is it's really for CFOs are the ones that like using the Pacifictech Go app, just because it's so easy for them to do their approvals. All right, so just looking at some of the key benefits, data availability. So Bill touched on this before, and I think I have as well. So, you know, so our solution provides some advanced functionality, but we think it's very important to put the key data into Intacct itself, so that, you know, for various reasons, you know, Intacct does a lot of stuff really, really well, and all the reporting and visibility. It's really important to have that within Intacct. Now, another one is portability. So if a customer is running Sage 300 and using our solutions, then it's very easy for them to migrate. They just really keep using all of our procurement and approval processes, and also the data capture, automated data extraction. All of that's just, and all that training of vendors is all just retained. So yeah, for Sage 300 customers, it's very easy to migrate across. Data extraction, yeah, very high success rates from the PDFs. And then, yeah, the last one there, confidence, familiarity, and proven. So yeah, we've been working with Sage business partners for over 25 years. Yeah, got some really great relationships, long-term relationships that we plan to keep continuing with. Yeah, thanks everyone for your time, and we'll leave you to it. Have a good day.